we have a moral obligation. We have a biblical obligation. We have a theological obligation to stand with Israel. Now, do I agree with everything Israel does in its politics? No, absolutely not. Do I agree with everything America does in its politics? Absolutely not. But as a Christian, and I emphasize the word Christian, as a Christian, I have a fiduciary responsibility to stand with the Jewish people and the state of Israel. Candace Owens, in one of your latest videos, you said that this is the end, and I quote, of Christian Zionism. I don't know if that was something meant to be sarcastic, or maybe you were just saying in passing, but Candace, you could not be wrong, as my mama would say, as two left shoes. I want to talk to you, and I really want to help you with this one. I know there are a lot of African-American pastors who sometimes say things out of emotions and sensation. Maybe they're not an authority or have a vetted, proven background, but Christian Zionism and pro-Israel advocacy happens to be my wheelhouse. I did my doctorate degree at Oral Roberts University on African Americans supporting the Jewish state, Christians supporting the Jewish state, and I even wrote a book, and it's simply called We Too Stand, Why the Black Church Stands with Israel. And Candace, I'll say this first of all. I like you. I really think you're tremendous, impressive, tremendously gifted. I brag often on you. I think you are a bright hope for the future of Black America, particularly in politics. 8.5% of the times, I don't second guess anything you say or do. I love your consistency. I love your passion. I love your thoroughness and your investigative background. But sister girl, listen, I think you were wrong. And in fact, I know you were wrong. And I hope you are humbled and walking enough in integrity to maybe backwalk this one and say, you know what, Rabbi Shlomo Riskian, I owe you an apology. I was given some misleading information, and what you presented about him, his organization, the whole gifts of Bitcoins to pastors, that could not be furthest from the truth. In fact, I'm familiar with Rabbi Shlomo Riskian. I have pictures with him. I've been to the center there in Ephrata. I've done many, many trips to Israel. I've taken many African-American pastors, leaders throughout the last 20 years plus. So I called a colleague friend of mine. I said, hey, what's going on with all of this? He said, Pastor Stephen, this is the furthest from the truth. Rabbi Riskian would not have written this letter. In fact, he did not write this letter. Candace, somebody's setting you up for embarrassment, failure, and shame. But the good news is not everybody hates on you, okay? I'm not a hater of you. I'm not against you. In fact, I want you to get this right because I'm depending on you. Black America is depending on you. There's a lot of people in the conservative base depending on you. We don't know what the future holds. God knows. But what we do know is every once in a while, we all make mistakes. I've made my mistakes in the past, some private, some public. Not ashamed to say that. But this might be one of the areas where you, in your integrity and character, would backtrack and say, you know what? I was given wrong information. I'm sorry. Here's my official apology. Shlomo Riskian is a good man. He's done tremendous work for the last, multiples of years, not only in the Christian and the Jewish space, but particularly with African Americans, and I'm grateful for that. You know, I don't know a lot about Ted Cruz and I said Tucker Carlson. In fact, Tucker Carlson is not my responsibility. He is not nowhere in my framework, but you are. And I'll tell you why. I think you are a tremendous example of what can happen when intelligence meets passion and Christianity. And so that being said, Ted Cruz, he probably should have been able to quote Genesis 12. I get it. He should have been able to quote Psalm 119. He should have been able to quote Luke chapter 8. He should have talked about all of the various passages of scripture where, yes, Old Testament, New Testament alike, we are called and gifted to stand, pray, and support the Jewish state. Some of the questions I get often in the last 15, 20 years is, well, is Israel the same Israel that was 2,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago? Is the Jewish state the same today as it was yesterday? Are Ethiopians from Ethiopia today the same as they were 2,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago? Yeah. Are Kenyans the same today as they were 2,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago? Absolutely. So why wouldn't Jews today not be the same? And I'm not getting into the weeds of the nuances of the state of Israel, the government of Israel, the people of Israel, Jews, historical Jews, black Jews, original 12 tribe. You know what? God is the same. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And he said that my covenant is not only 1,000 generations, but 1,000 times 1,000 generations. And so just real quick, and I'm not preaching my book, I'm not selling my book. In fact, what's important is simply this. Number one, Genesis 12. Yeah, you're blessed, Ted Cruz. That scripture we all should have learned in Sunday school, but apparently we don't, and that's okay. But the premise is the same. The promise is in chapter 12. Covenant comes in 15 and 17, and his covenant is not going anywhere. It stays the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So God made that promise to those who bless bless Israel, I'll bless you. If you curse Israel, yeah, I'll curse you. And that's non-negotiable. We're called to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for the peace of Israel. We're called to cry aloud and spare not, stand and cry out for the righteousness of Israel. And again, doesn't mean we agree with everything from a moral or political stand with the modern day current state, but the ethos and the people of Israel we believe and stand with, especially in a day and time when you have the existential threat of Iran. Israel is bordered on all states. In fact, think about it. It is surrounded by 650 times people in a bad neighborhood, I might add, in the Middle East. And these aren't friendly neighbors, all right? When you have people who say death to Israel, death to America, Israel is the little Satan, America's the big Satan, I think we need to take respect to that. We need to take notice of that. They're not hiding their hand. And again, we can't afford to lose our blessing, much less grace of God on our country, because we've made a commitment to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. We should always show honor to those in leadership, whether it be President Trump, whether it be Bibi Netanyahu. I didn't agree with President Barack Obama. I've met him, spoke with him, told him I'm praying for him and his family, but he couldn't have been the more liberal congressional leader at that time than he was. But he was still the president. And I still had to honor and respect that, particularly as a man of color. So let me say this to you, Candace. I really need you to backtrack this one. Offer an official apology to Rabbi Shlomo Riskins. He deserves better. And whether he needs it or deserves it or not, you need it. You need it. I don't want to see you lose your credibility in the Black community, in the Christian Zionist community, in the Jewish community. I don't want to see you lose credibility in the eyes of the Lord, because pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And we all can ascend to the ranks of being so insulated to where we basically are listening to the praise of our own rhetoric. And I don't want that to be you. And I'm saying that with a very pure conscience and clean heart. I hope if you don't feel me, you don't know me, but maybe God will give you the spirit to discern, as you use the word discern, that, this guy's being authentic and being true. Let me go back and really fact check what was true, what wasn't true. There's a lot of fake media, and there's millions of people who would love to see you embarrassed, love to see you ashamed, love to see you wrong. I'm not one of those people. I want to see you soar. I want to see you sin. I want to see you do your best. So that being said, again, theologically, we didn't replace the Jews. Jews were not judged because they killed Christ, therefore the Holocaust. No, that's what's called replacement theology. We're grafted in as Gentiles. We're added to the tree. We're added to the family through adoption in the New Testament, through Jesus and the grace of God. But we don't replace the Jews. And so that being said, I have to be a firm believer and an apologist against the much rhetoric spewing out of many Black churches today as it relates to replacement theology. And then what about anti-Semitism in the Black church? You and I both know the rise of anti-Semitism in America usually out faces of color, whether it's African Americans, Latino Americans, people from different backgrounds. That is an alarming statistic, and that's something we all need to contend with. But why is that so? You've got your Al Sharptons, your Jesse Jacksons, your Khalid Muhammads, you've got your Farrakhans of today, and they're all spewing from the pulpits in the streets things that are not necessarily true against our Jewish brothers and sisters. Is there Jewish envy? Is there Jewish envy and social envy? I think so. Why? Well, we both as a culture came from slavery. Jews in slavery in Egypt. We came through slavery from the United States to the United States in 450 years. We both come from religious backgrounds. Yes, but God also spoke promises on both of our communities. And this is why I believe we should stand with the Jews as they stood with us during the civil rights movement. Oh, well, they were part of slave trade. No. We were part of slave trade. We sold ourselves for rum and molasses and sugar and the like. But the reality is simply this: as Rabbi Joshua Heschel and so many, in fact, 2 out of 3 non-Blacks who marched in the civil rights era were Jews. I think we owe them a debt of gratitude in their time of need, not to exacerbate them, not to add fuel to the fire, not to become more of an enemy. But let's stand. Historically, we should stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters. Theologically, we should stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters. You know what? Morally, we should stand. Why is that? Why do we owe them anything? Well, they gave us the apostles. They gave us the patriarchs. They gave us the Bible. In fact, they gave us Jesus. Last I checked, he was Jewish. He is Jewish. And when we meet him one day on that great judgment day, he's still going to be Jewish. And so that those things being said, I really want somebody to speak with coherent, clear understanding and articulate all of these various motives of why we should not stand and make mockery of some of these things that are happening. I'm not really into the whole Gaza war piece, but that all could have ended in one day had they released those hostages. Plenty of notices, plenty of warning, plenty of patience, and it could end right now if you release the hostages. Very clear. And yes, I empathize with our Palestinian friends. In fact, Palestinians want to get from under Hamas. Think about that. And just to show, when you go back to the book, I made it very clear. First sentence of the book says this: to be pro-Israel is not to be anti-Palestinian. You'll see right here on whatever page it is. But I wanted to make sure that I'm not a Jewish romanticism person. It's not as if they can't do any wrong and anything against them, they're wrong. That's not the case. But I've got friends like Pastor Stephen Curry and his family who live in Bethlehem. They're Palestinian Christians. And I have many friends who are from the Palestinian background. The reality is simply this: I'm aware of the happy clappies in Christian Zionism. I'm aware of those who don't think, but yet whatever they do and whatever they say, they're blessed and everyone else is cursed. I don't subscribe to that. Here's what I subscribe to. Let's find the theological, the moral, the biblical, the historical, and let's find some common grounds to stand. Let's not give room to the devil. Let's not give room to the enemy to create a wedge and a device, all right? Again, I believe in you. And I know you are a woman of integrity and of character. I've watched too many of the episodes. I've seen too much of your background to know that we all miss it. We all drop it. But when we do, let's get it right. Candace, several years ago, I dropped the ball big time. But I knew I needed to be man enough for my wife, for my children, for the church that I lead, and the people who knew me nationwide, worldwide, to say, we all miss it. We all drop it. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Let's get up. Let's go on. Let's do better. I'm counting on you to do the same. Black America is counting on you to do the same. Conservative America is counting on you to do the same. We all, including our Jewish friends, are counting on you to do the same. Thanks for listening. God bless.
Please like, subscribe, and share to help us.